And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another live stream. In case you guys missed it, there was another press conference today from Doug Peterson, and as well as the offensive coordinator, Press Taylor, and defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell. So it's always good when you get a new head coach in where you can actually observe and just kind of listen to the head coach a little bit more. Even if they don't say a lot, it's just nice to, because this is the first press conference where Doug Peterson has actually been wearing Jaguars gear. So it's nice to have the logo on the chest and and in the background have the Jaguar print, I guess you just say, kind of like the Jaguar backdrop with the Jaguar logo and the different sponsors. So all that was pretty cool to see. And shout out to everybody in here. Charlie Boy's in here. Super Gamer was first. Mindset in the building. What's going on, guys? Angelo says, I'm ready for free agency. Hell yeah. So I'm not going to be reading too many comments on this one. This is a lunch break stream. So I'm going to be on here for about 30 minutes, but I did want to quickly put out some kind of takeaways that I got from today's press conference, and I figured it would be easier to do this on a live stream instead of putting together a video, editing, uploading. It's for those that aren't YouTubers, it can be a little bit of a process, especially when you think the video is going to be more than 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes the whole process takes a little bit. So on the live stream, I could put it out there. It's out there. I hit in live stream and I'll have to do anything anymore. So so it's pretty cool, man. So Doug Peterson, he put together his staff pretty quickly. And when you compare it to Urban Meyer, they both finalized their staff on the same day, but Urban Meyer was hired like 3 weeks before Doug Marrone. So, and I truly think that Doug Marrone already knew before he even accepted the Jaguars job what 75% of his staff was going to look like. He went out there and made quick work. He probably had a great idea who his offensive coordinator was going to be, defensive coordinator, maybe even the pass game coordinator and whatnot, maybe even quarterback's coach. I mean, maybe even he already had a mindset of what he wanted the staff around Trevor Lawrence to look like. So he had obviously put that together quick. I think the other percentage, maybe he got together with a defensive and offensive coordinator, bounced some ideas off of what the staff is going to look like there. Maybe especially with like Mike Caldwell, who's been away from Doug Peterson for some time. Maybe, they brought over some guys from Tampa. Doug Peterson brought in some of his guys to kind of formalize the defensive staff. So that's good. And like I said, it was pretty quickly. And I think another percentage, I think it is good to retain some guys. I mean, he retained running backs coach Bernie Parmalee. I think it's good to keep around some of the guys so you're not completely fresh. Keep around some guys, especially. Did I say Doug Marrone, Doug Peterson? I think this might turn into a trend. Dougie P. You don't say Dougie M, you say Dougie P. So my bad, guys. I'll be better about that. But yeah, and he brought in a ton of coaches with experience, guys that have actually played the game of football in the NFL. So that's good because a bunch of these guys can kind of see the game of football through Doug Peterson's eyes. Not Doug Peterson, through the player's eyes. Oh, I'm all flustered right now. A bunch of coaches that can see the game of football through their players' eyes, and all that's pretty good. And before I kind of get into this, I think a lot of coaches and stuff like that, they win these press conferences. You look at coaching staffs, and you're like, man, great coaching staff. I love this coaching staff. We're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, it looks pretty good on paper. I mean, I like some of the hires, but I have no idea if the defensive back coach was the right hire. I have no idea if the offensive line coach, if he's going to be a great hire. You know what I mean? We just kind of had to wait and see on that. And with our coordinators, offensive coordinator Press Taylor, it's his first offensive coordinator job, and it's also Mike Caldwell's first defensive coordinator job. So there's a lot of upside there, but there's also a little bit of risk. But I think the difference in this is Doug Peterson was able to bring in and like hire his own guys, hire guys that he thinks has a ton of potential. While Urban Meyer was just trying to learn the game of football this time last year. He was trying to learn, like, because he came in and Urban Meyer really didn't have any plan. It's pretty clear and evident about that. I mean, he went and he had an idea who his offense coordinator was going to be. He was going to hire that guy. And I believe I forget who the offense coordinator was. I think it was like Scott Linehan. And then after Darrell Bevell's press conference, Darrell Bevell apparently blew him away and he hired Darrell Bevell. And then I think Darrell Bevell brought in a bunch of his own guys, like the passing game coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. Those two have worked together a lot. And defense coordinator, Joe Cullen. I'm not sure the relationship there, but I think Trent Baalke set up a bunch of the interviews. And, he just kind of put together a staff that, okay, these guys all have NFL experience. He had to hire a lot of experience to help him out. But this time around, Doug Peterson, he's hiring a bunch of his guys, which is nice. Actually, I'll get into this a little bit later, but yeah. So when it comes to actually Doug Peterson speaking, one thing that was nice about him was he really put an emphasis on like forming game plans. I think last year we heard a lot from Urban Meyer when it comes to, we want to be a fast team. We want to be a physical team. We want to fill up the stands, all this kind of stuff. But he put more of an emphasis on being collaborative with his coaching staff and really putting an emphasis on forming game plans for the team. I thought it was, I think, Junior Jack's press. Am I late? I don't think YouTube's sending out notifications because there's only 56 people in here and I see people coming in late. So, YouTube dropping a ball on that. So if you guys can hit the like button, so that'll kind of let YouTube know to send out more people kind of over here. So shout out to all the people that's in here, guys. So the collaborative approach, and he really put an emphasis on the collaborative approach being between Doug Peterson himself, Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, the passing game coordinator, and Mike McCoy, the quarterbacks coach. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty nice because, like I said, last year, I don't think I ever heard Urban Meyer even mention game plan. And it came out later that Urban Meyer was not involved in game planning. He would leave, he would work banker hours. He'd leave the building at 5 o'clock and let Darrell Bevell and the staff kind of game plan. That's not going to be the way that Doug Peterson is. So that's a pretty nice thing about it. So he hired Press Taylor as his offensive coordinator. And it feels like Press Taylor was really like the Josh McDaniels to Bill Belichick or the Byron Leftwich to Bruce Arians. This is kind of his guy that he molded together and that he's kind of seen grow up. Press Taylor's only 34 years old. And for reference, I mean, Marvin Jones is 31 years old. So there's only like a three-year difference over there. And some things that he noted about him, he's been with him since 2016. He notes that he's a smart guy, very detailed, very organized. He's kept his eye on him all throughout the years. And Doug actually got fired over wanting to keep him around. Because, I mean, there was a power struggle when Doug Peterson left Philadelphia. He wasn't outright fired, but Doug Peterson wanted to make Press Taylor the offensive coordinator. And the GM and owner said, no, we don't want him as offensive coordinator. We want to give you this guy. And if you're a head coach, the front office can't force a coordinator on you. I mean, maybe they can force a position coach. Oh, we want you to hire this running back coach. All right, fine, do it. But when it comes to the offensive coordinator, really Doug Peterson's complete right-hand man, I mean, these guys are going to be, like I said, forming game plans together. You can't do that. And ultimately, that's when they shook hands and Doug said, all right, I'm out. So that was one thing about him. What else do I have here? He says that the team has talent but needs more consistency. He noted that, look, he sees things, but, the team was completely different from a week-to-week basis. And we saw that. I mean, we saw that the weirdest 3-game span was when the Jaguars beat the Dolphins in London, go on a bye week, and they get destroyed by the Seahawks. Thanks for that. I traveled all the way over to Seattle to watch our team's ass get whooped. And a week later, you beat the Bills. What was that? 10-6 or something? 9-6? Yeah, 9-6. Yeah, because we 69'd them. So that was a strange three. And then obviously you didn't win another game until week 18. So yeah, and that's the thing. You got to be consistent, and a part of that is figuring out the identity. Doug Peterson said, "Look, we have to come in here. We have to figure out what the identity of the team is, and we don't know that yet. We're going to have to get our players in here and figure that out." And I like that, because that's another thing I don't really remember Urban Meyer saying is this identity, because identity is crucial. You have to figure out what the identity of your team is going to be, because that's how you're going to win games. You know what I mean? Like the Titans know that they want to win games by pounding Derrick Henry. The Bills know they want to win games through Josh Allen, through his arm and through his legs. You know what I mean? They're not going to, like, for a little while, and part of the Bills' struggle when they struggled midseason and against the Jaguars is that they were trying to force themselves to run the ball, through the running backs. And at the end of the day, that didn't work. I mean, they couldn't win games that way. So they had to say, okay, like, as much as we want to be able to run the ball well with our running backs, we just can't do it. So we have to get back to what we're doing good. I mean, you can't force an identity on a team. And last year, week 1 against the Texans, it looked like the Jaguars wanted to be like this pass-heavy team. Trevor Lawrence threw the ball 51 times against the Texans. James Robinson ran the ball 5 times. Carlos Hyde had more carries than James Robinson. I don't know what the Jaguars' plan for their identity was last year. And then they were forced to say, okay, all we can do right now is run the ball, because Trevor Lawrence is struggling. Offensive line isn't blocking anybody. Wide receivers are just bleh. And at the end of the day, the coaches were just bad. The team was bad. Nothing was really going that good last year, except for James Robinson at the beginning of the year, for that stretch that he went on. So, yeah, identity, need to figure out. That probably won't be figured out until training camp, preseason. And maybe, I mean, Jaguars may start the season, 1-3, 2-2, whatever. And they might say, okay, this is what we're doing good. This is what we're doing bad. This is what we need to key in on. And this needs to be our identity. So that's one thing. The only players that Doug Marrone mentioned by name, I always like to get to hear who the coaches mentioned. He mentioned Josh Allen, Kayvon Chaisson, Trevor Lawrence. So whatever that may mean to you. When are we going to talk about free agency? I'll be talking about it here. Now that the coaching staff is finalized, we'll get into more free agency. We're still about a month away from it all, so there'll be plenty of time. But trust me, I'll get into it. It's Reese. Welcome, man. Thanks for stopping in. So now he said that he still needs to figure out who the assistant coach will be. It will be somebody from the staff. If I were to take a guess right here, I would probably guess that Mike McCoy would be the assistant head coach, just because he's done it before. He's been around the league for a long, long time. You know what I mean? I think most likely Mike McCoy, if I were to take a guess. I don't know that. I haven't heard that from anybody. That would just be my guess. And he did say that his 2 most important position coach hires was the offensive line coach and the quarterback coach. So interesting. Like I said, man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry for saying Doug Marrone. I'll try to get over it, but if I say Doug Marrone, you guys know what I mean. So I apologize. I know sometimes that stuff drives me nuts, but at least I'm not saying like Doug Peterson's. You know what I mean? Like some guys will, like Urban Meyer's, like some guys will just completely butcher the last name. I'm just saying the wrong guy. Because you guys got to remember, I was doing YouTubing for 4 years with Doug Marrone, 1 year with Urban Meyer. So give me a little bit of a break. It's Reese says, once we know what personnel we get in free agency in the draft, we'll know what kind of identity we will have. He's a competent coach, so I'm sure he knows what the focus should be once they evaluate. Yeah, that's the thing. We know that Dougie P, as Get Money would say, I'm gonna start saying Dougie P until I get it right. We know that Dougie P can do it. I mean, he's done it. He's not coming in here with national championship trophies. He's coming in with a Super Bowl ring. He's coming in here with a winning percentage. He's coming in here with multiple playoff appearances. So we hired a qualified guy. It would have been dumb if the Jaguars hired like Kevin O'Connell because you wanted Byron Leftwich and you hired a guy that's less qualified. I mean, if we weren't going to hire Byron Leftwich, hire somebody that's probably more qualified. I mean, you don't know. I mean, Byron Leftwich may have huge upside, but we know what Doug Peterson is. He's a good coach, and he's not all talk. That's one thing I like about these press conferences. We're not printing off shirts after these press conferences. You know what I mean? Doug Peterson's out here. He's telling it as it is, and that's what I like about him. So, yeah, offensive line coach and quarterback coach coming from a quarterback, he's like, I'm going to make sure these are the right things. And he also didn't feel comfortable on really talking about the EVP role. He basically said, look, ask Shad Khan that. And I understand that because it's not his job to hire them. It's not his job to relay any updates to Jags fans. I know right now we're getting a little bit anxious because Shad Khan mentioned it at Doug Peterson's opening press conference, and we haven't had any news really come out of that. That was 13 days ago. We haven't really heard any follow-ups. I think a lot of times EVP interviews get done in the dark, so there's not a lot of updates on that. And it's hard because with head coach, when you're hiring a head coach, it's a pretty urgent thing. I mean, you have to get a head coach in place. EVP, it's not necessarily the same thing. An EVP, I think you can take your time with it. You may not have to hire one until like March. I don't know. The only names I've heard come out were Rick Spielman, and I've heard some whispers about Rick Smith. Both those guys are qualified guys, and he said that he would want to have a say in who's going to be the EVP. But some things an EVP you need to have. I think they need to be a GM. I have been a GM because I think that's a big thing. Is they're going to be helping control personnel. They've had to have had success where they were at. Rick Spielman, Rick Smith have both had success. I think they need to have good relationships with people. I don't think Tom Coughlin had the best relationships with people. He was just kind of a Jaguars prodigy in a way. So, and I think they need experience. You know what I mean? So those are some of the things I would look for when it comes to some qualities in a EVP, and I think they just had to have been successful. So, he's been both of them. I mean, even Rick's. People will say, "Oh, Rick Spielman, why would you want him? He drafted Christian Ponder. He did this." That it's like, look, like if you look at any GM around the NFL, nobody bats 1,000. You got to find a guy that's been a good evaluator, and you got to have a guy that also like to have a guy that's been a part of a good culture. I don't know a lot about the Vikings, but it feels like the Vikings they've been winning. They haven't been over the top. And I don't think that's the fault of the EVP. I think it's just, maybe Zimmer wasn't the greatest. Maybe they haven't had the best quarterbacks, which Rick Spielman, he couldn't really hit on the quarterback position. But that's not what we're asking him to do. I'm hoping our boy Trevor Lawrence, who's only 22 years old, which, by the way, I don't know if I wrote this down, but, Trevor Lawrence is only 22 years old. You guys know Joe Burrow is 25 years old. At the start of the season last year, Trevor Lawrence was 21, so he's still very young. But yeah, we're not, hopefully for the next 18 years, Trevor Lawrence is our quarterback. We won't have to worry about getting a guy like that. So, yeah. When it comes to Doug Peterson, that's really all I have on his thing. I'm not going to go over every single position because if you guys want to know position hires, go to the Jaguars website. They'll give you a little synopsis about him. I couldn't tell you anything about our inside linebacker coach. Ooh, I like this hire because he played football for the Kansas City Chiefs one time. You know what I mean? It's you guys have your best guess on that. I'm going to go over the defensive and offensive coordinator. So Mike Caldwell was the second guy, the first coordinator to give a press conference. His relationship with Doug Peterson started when he was a player in Philadelphia. Mike Caldwell was a linebacker. Doug Peterson was a quarterback, so they played against each other in practice a lot. He's from the Todd Bowles tree. He coached with Todd Bowles in when he was on the Jets and also when he was on the Buccaneers. He says one thing: our players play hard. I don't know. A lot of these, I try to kind of I didn't have a lot of points from him just because it's just your standard coach speak. He said that he doesn't know if they're going to play a 3-4 or 4-3 yet. He's going to evaluate the talent, see what's best. I'm sure it's going to be a 3-4. So, he says our players played hard. That's one thing that stood out about him. He had a conversation with Miles Jack, and Miles Jack basically said that he wants to win. We just have it was just kind of out of Mike Caldwell, your typical buzzwords. Oh, we want to play hard. We want to, you know what I mean? I didn't get too many things to say. Nick said, that's a pretty stupid thing to say considering we haven't seen any games with this coaching staff yet. Okay. I don't know what that means, but okay. Get Money says, I think we're going to see our real offense once ETN comes back. Robinson, ETN, and T-Law will be on the field at the same time. Yeah, and and last year it felt like we were missing a lot of speed. But I'll say this, ETN has a lot of speed. Agnew clearly has a lot of speed. So we'll see. So that was Mike Caldwell. That's still to be seen. I'm not going to, he's never been a defense coordinator before. That's a high upside type of thing. So hopefully, when there's rewards, there could come risks. He could flame out. I don't know, but I'm going to, hope for the best. And the next guy was Press Taylor. We were all wanting to hear from Press Taylor mostly because he's had a relationship with Doug Peterson, and he's going to be really working hard with what's called Trevor Lawrence. So some things from him. 34 years old. He, as I was saying earlier, he was kind of Doug Peterson's prodigy. He kind of was raised up with him. He's Zach Taylor's little brother. He came from India. Remember Trevor Lawrence's last game against the Colts, where he kind of took off. When he did his homework on Trevor Lawrence, he did everything, even going back to watching press conferences of him, just to kind of see his demeanor and what he was like. He kind of spoke about, okay, what role will Travis Etienne play? And he said that Etienne is best with the ball in his hands. So it immediately made me think of, and I know when you mention this, everybody jumps on you, and I'm not saying use him the same exact way, but if we can try to see if we can use him in like a Deebo Samuel type role. Deebo Samuel said he's like a wide back where he does a lot of it. I mean, I still want to give James Robinson the ball, 13 to 15 times a game, but I also want to give Travis Etienne the ball. Give your best players the ball. And I think there's some good examples of what you can do. Just take notes on how the 49ers use Deebo Samuel and try to. I know there are different types of players, but still, I'm going to focus on giving more touches to Travis Etienne and taking some of those touches away from Chenault and stuff like that, because we'll go into the free agency and what we need to do for each position group later, but I think we need to completely overhaul this wide receiver room. The only wide receiver I really like is Jamal Agnew. Outside of that, a bunch of players can go, and I'm not even a big fan of DJ Chark. I've been going back and forth with people on Twitter. They're like, oh, how can you hate him? 4.3 speed, 6'4". Well, if he has 4.3 speed, why do I never see it on the field? If he's 6'4", why is he not bullying people? A wide receiver that's 6'4" and runs a 4.3 40, they should be a problem for defensive backs. And DJ Chark hasn't been. I wouldn't mind bringing him back on a 1-year deal, but I'm not giving him any kind of. And I think we can clearly upgrade from him. You know what I mean? I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but people have been attacking me, telling me, "Oh, DJ Chark's the greatest thing ever." No, come on, man, come on. Yeah, Get Money says keep number 10. It takes 3 people to get him down. Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't want to rely on a wide receiver it's like, okay, this guy does his work by bullying down people. It's like I can rely on Agnew on a bubble screen to use his speed to get past players. I don't really want to rely on a player that, okay, this guy gets his yards by like bullying people down. And Chenault, he's only good on bubble screens and slant routes. He is not a down the field receiver at all. I mean, he doesn't create separation. He's just an awkward fit for a wide receiver. But we'll see. He'll probably be back on the team because he's on a cheap rookie deal. So we'll see how this coaching staff uses him. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, I could do a whole 30-minute live stream on him. So yeah, need to upgrade a wide receiver room. I think Agnew could be a good wide receiver 3, but we need to get the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 in here. I'd bring back DJ Chark on a 1-year prove it deal because of that 4.3 speed and 6'4 height, and some of the catches that he can make. He has high upside, but I don't think he's going to be able to get a multi-year contract to fit that upside. I think his best bet is to take a 1-year deal, similar to what the Jaguars gave Dante Moncrief a few years ago, because Dante Moncrief, he had all that ability. He was tall, he was fast, but he didn't really turn into anything. You know what I mean? A lot of what's his name? Devin Funchess. He had all that height. He was really intriguing. He got a 1-year deal and he kind of flamed out. So I'm not hoping the same thing for DJ Chark, but at this point, you got to put some production on the field. So we'll see. So some other things. He also spoke about just being aligned when it comes to collaborating between quarterback, press, Doug, Jim Bob Cooter, McCoy. And yeah. So he said that they're going to create a brand new playbook for this offense. So Doug Peterson isn't just going to bring over his playbook from the Eagles. They're going to form a playbook based on what Mike McCoy likes, Jim Bob Cooter likes, all those different guys, and also based on what fits the strengths of this team. And they're going to roll from there. So we'll see about it all. We'll see how this coaching staff does. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, best coaching staff ever. Love this staff. We'll just have to see on the staff. You know what I mean? I do like that Doug Peterson has had relationships with these guys instead of just bring guys in and doing blind interviews. It was clear that Doug Peterson had a plan because he put this staff together. He was introduced as head coach less than 2 weeks ago. 13 days ago was his intro press conference. He said in that press conference, someone asked him, since you were hired so late, is this going to affect your coaching search? Is it going to hurt you? He said no. He just said no. And he was true to his word because he put this staff together pretty quickly. And we'll see how this does, obviously. And we won't know how it does. We won't, maybe in preseason we might be able to maybe tell how, because, preseason, preseason 2021 was not a pretty sight. And it was a sign of things to come. We'll see how preseason 2022 looks. But all right, guys, this is a lunch break stream. We have 128 people in here, man. Thanks, guys, for being here. Drop a like for me. I'm going to return to work and get my stuff done. And yeah. So thanks, guys, for being here. Go Jags. I'm out.